Okay guys, I'm doing a little test on this particular setting that I've got. So I've bought a new phone holder. I know a lot of people didn't like my nose cam, so I've got a new phone holder, new cables, new everything, just to do some of these drive time videos. Okay, so I know somebody recently asked me, so on one of the chats, I would really love those to be in the comments in the video, obviously, but anyway, let me answer this question. So the brother asked basically, regarding something I mentioned yesterday, how I pay in advance, right? So it's actually pretty simple, right? What I've did, so we all make money, right? At some point or another, we all make profits, right? We all make tons of profits, but we kind of forget our daily expenses or our weekly or monthly expenses, right? It's a human nature. We get too excited and we basically just kind of leave that part out, that, okay, you've made money, you've got bills to pay. We focus on everything else because everything else is okay, right? And I talk about how I always think about the macro, how I always think in a bigger perspective, right? I don't see things small. So for me, excuse my glasses, but I don't see that tiny thing. I don't, when I see something, I need to see the bigger part of it, right? So I know part of living, right? A part of living, you need food, you've got expenses, you're gonna pay for rent, mortgage, whatever you got, right? You're gonna pay for those things. So those are the bigger picture of your life, right? And we pay monthly, weekly, whatever, and we get to the state where we're like, it's okay, it's going, right? And for me, it's like, well, it's not okay, right? So by having that kind of an attitude, I'm always pre-prepared. And what I tend to do, so I have a basic bank account, a very basic bank account. I have money sitting in there, right? For example, when it comes to the rent and this and that, for the property that I stay in, that stuff, sorry, it's just a bit sunny here. That stuff, what I do is I just give it to my missus. So depends on the season. So for example, if I've got a good season and I've made more money than I thought I would, and the season is very good, then I'll pay her a year, maybe even 2 years in advance, and I'll say put it in the bank and make sure it goes. So the payments are still being made monthly, weekly, whatever it be, right? But the money's up front. By keeping the money up front, I'm free to do what I want basically within that year. Then I'll think about it when the time comes, and by that time normally I've made more anyway. For a simple one, for example, my mobile phone contract, right? So I've got quite a few contracts, and what I do is I already ask the company obviously how much it is. Say if I get a 12-month contract, I already know how much it's going to be, right? So for example, if it's a £20 contract, I know it's going to cost me £240 a year, right, for a 12-month contract. So I already know that. Then what I'll do is, just in case I make some international calls or whatnot, and I might go above the bill, I'll put another 50-60 quid in there, and which is normally sufficient, right? I'll put it in there and call it 300 quid just for the sake of it. Now, if I don't spend that money, then it's still there. There's no harm, right? But I'll leave that money in the specific account that I pay all my bills from. I'll just leave it there. So I've paid that in advance. When it comes to, for example, a car insurance, right? Most times I will pay up front, okay, as you should, because it's more cheaper for you. However, there are times when you can actually get 0% interest, and I do that quite a bit because I've been with Direct Line for a very long time. So my insurance is actually a lot more expensive than everybody else, but I'm one of those, I don't like change. So Direct Line, yes, they're a couple of £100 more than everybody else, but I've been with them. They have my record. In fact, I don't even renew with them, right? As long as I don't call them, they just automatically renew it. So it's a peace of mind for me. So I just do, kind of just like managing things and making it more simple, and don't think about it. Obviously, they're going to send me a letter and say, oh, your insurance is this much this year. So if I know that, and I know it's 0% interest, and I'm like, wow, okay, I can use the money to do something else in the meantime and make more, then I'm going to take that opportunity, provided it's 0% interest. If it's not, then I'm not going to bother with it, right? So you just pay in advance, or if you don't pay in advance, then you leave the money that you would be paying in your account, right? So whenever I take significant profits or anything like that, I'm always thinking on a longer term. For example, I'll give you another one. So this particular season, so 2019 to 2020, I've done something else as well, which is pretty nuts. So I don't have any credit. Right, normally, all right, let me get to the bottom. Let me explain this properly. Normally, I do not have any credit. I will not have a loan. I will not borrow any money from anybody. If I haven't got it, I'm not going to spend it. Very simple attitude I have. I don't need credit cards. I don't need nothing, right? But when the season started in 2019, I started to reorder. So what I do is I don't have credit cards or anything. I don't need them, so I don't have them. So I ordered a credit card, and my first credit card came, and I said, right, the season's starting, so I'm going to borrow as much money as possible, especially on my credit card, so I can basically boost my credit, number one, and also buy a ton of crypto. So what I did was I basically started ordering credit cards, and I had a whole bunch of them come along, and I did that over a span of like 6 months, right? And I kind of maxed out all of them. Right, this is funny. So I maxed out all of my credit card and I bought more Bitcoin, right? But that's because I know it's going to go up. And then what I did was I paid minimum payments to all of them, and I'm having a nice little boost in my credit score. And as we're hitting the top, one by one, I'm clearing off all the credit cards, right? So, the more money I make, I'm paying off, right? And that's what I'm doing. So I'm using Bitcoin to boost I'm using the credit card to boost my credit and also borrow, right? Doing that. I mean, you could do it with a loan as well, and I have done it with a loan. In 2018, when the market went completely down, I borrowed a small amount of money, a very small loan, and I bought more Bitcoin because I didn't have any cash. And at that time was when my one of my associates robbed me of all the Bitcoin I had and just ran away. So I was kind of like stressed, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I need to jump back in again. So how do I do this? Very fast, right? And the only option I had was credit, right? So I bought a whole ton of I took a whole ton of credit basically, and I boosted myself, and then I paid it back as soon as I got the money. So the credit was out, and then I cut the cards, chucked away. In fact, I called up all the credit card companies and I said, just cancel it, I don't want it anymore. In that time they were offering me more credit, and they're like, oh, can we give you more? And I was like, no, I just don't need it, it's okay, so they cut it, right? Then in 2019 I ordered again with the same companies, knowing that they want to give it to me, and they did give me more credit than I had before. So sometimes you got to use whatever tool you have, right? So that's what I did. I used every single tool available to me to acquire as many more crypto as possible, and then obviously knowing the market's going up, I wouldn't do it in a bear market, right? And as long as I know the pattern is going up, so I'm looking at the trend lines. So then what I did was obviously I paid it off. But I'm using the credit to boost my BTC. Once the BTC prices are going up, I'm cashing out. And this kind of answers brother Bobby's question as well. Why don't I do it? I do it, right? I explained to him over a very long phone call yesterday, so I hope you appreciate the phone call, that because there was a bit of a confusion, so we cleared the confusion finally, because I hope one day everybody thinks the same way, and hopefully one day everybody has that pot. So I have 3 pots. I've mentioned it before. I have 3 pots, right? One pot is only BTC. There's nothing else in that pot, right? There's one pot with only BTC. And recently I've created a second pot, but it's a temporary pot. It's not a mainstream pot or anything. It's not something I'm focusing to open at 2030. So one of my pot is a 2030 pot where only Bitcoin goes in. And that Bitcoin that goes in there are not bought today, right? I have to be honest about that, being transparent. I did not buy them today. I bought them time back. And I am topping it up, right? But what I'm doing is I'm using my pot number 2 and pot number 3, right, to top it up. So my pot number 2 is my daily trading, daily spot trading, buying, selling altcoin, shitcoin, whatever. That's the pot. that pot I use to grow as much more BTC or as much more fiat as possible, right? And fiat could be USDT, you know, I could be using a dollar, I could be using the GBP. I don't use GBP most of the time, so my entry is GBP obviously, and my exit is GBP. But sometimes if I'm still in the exchange, I'll just leave it in USDT. It's a lot more easier for me to move. In fact, has been occasions where I've just left it in USDC. The reason I've left it in USDC is because USDC, if I need to move it around exchanges, right, it has less fees involved, right? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for as less fees as possible. So that's what I'll do, and kind of move money around that way if I have to. So sometimes I do have to move money around. So that's one. But coming back to the bills, right? So what I'm doing is whatever my bill is going to be, and it's something you have to practice and make perfect, right? For me, I started off very small with one item, and then eventually kept on stacking until all of my expenses are now prepaid, right? Prepaid in the sense that the money's always there in advance, you know, which prevents me from getting having to have an issue where, oh, I've got to fork it, oh, I've got my bill missing, I've got to pay my bill today, or I've got to do this today. No, bro, it doesn't exist for me. Right? It does not exist for me. The money's already there, right? So I'm free to do what I want, when I want, how I want, and anything I'm accumulating now. So what I'm talking about is like fiat or any money I'm accumulating now, I could focus and put that into anything I want, just from one single attitude that I've managed to make over time. I know there are other people who do something similar, but they don't do it to the extreme as I do. For me, it's 100%. I know my bills. I prepare for my bills. You know, whatever expense, doesn't matter what it's going to be. For example, my daughter's uni, this, that, whatever expense is going to be, I'm ready. Right, the money's already ready even before she gets there. So for example, my younger daughter, she's in school right now doing her GCSEs, right? And this is quite funny. I'm already preparing for her uni, which means there's a whole stash of cash, right, ready to deploy, right, if she goes to uni, right? So I'm ready for these things, and I've pre-planned it, right? So this is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes the power of planning is so powerful, right? And, you know, it comes back to that quote, right? You know, plan to fail, because if you don't, then you're planning to fail, right? So I know that nothing lasts forever. I always talk about that cryptocurrency and this and that, even this is a season, right? So if we're in a season to make money, then make as much money as you can. Take advantage of the season, right? And that's what I do. It's, for me, cryptocurrency is seasonal, right? I don't talk cryptocurrency all year round, 24/7, right? I am a bull, but I won't talk about it 24/7 because it's pointless, right? You know, end of the day, there's a season for it. But when the season comes, that's when I go mental, right? And I tell everybody, guys, look, this is the opportunity. Because what I don't want to do and what I want to avoid, right, is very important. I don't want to be promoting something in a bear cycle where we are uncertain which direction we're going to go. Because by doing that, I could potentially lead someone unknowingly. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, so anything you see here is just educational, right? I could end up leading someone by accident, right, without even knowing, into purchasing something and losing money. And I don't want that. I can't bear that burden or that thing in the back of my conscience, right? That somebody's probably gone and bought something and the market's going down. It's not healthy. I don't want to do that. And you'd see plenty of people doing this, right? They will do it all year round, right? Pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump, hype and FUD and this and that, right? You know, no, not me. It's not going to happen, right? There's a season. When the season's right, I'll tell you, go, go, go. When the season's out, I'm like, out, out, out. Very simple, right? You know, so I like to keep it that way. But again, coming back to the things, if you can get to the habit of knowing what your expense is and you pay all your expenses in advance, right? You know, you're not paying, but you're just leaving the money in the account, and then you forget about that money. So you cannot access that money. You should never access that money. If you're broke, you're broke. Even though you got like say for example, you got £1 million expense that year and you got £1 million sitting in your bank, and a day comes along where now you're broke, bro, I will go and borrow money instead of taking the money out of that, because that is planned money. all right? Anything unplanned, you got to work for that at that time, all right? You plan for everything else. So this is what it is, and this is kind of me planning for my failure. It's like, okay, what if I have a situation where I don't have a good year? What if I have a situation where the next 2 years is going to be very bad for me? Or what if, you know, something happens to me and I can't, I'm not able to work, or anything, God forbid, anything, right? I don't know, but at least I give my family a few years to kind of figure it out. So even if I'm not around anymore, anything could happen. They've got a few years to figure things out. They know for the next few years they're settled, right? They don't have to worry about anything. I know it's kind of deep, right, thinking like that, but that's what I do. I don't believe that we're here forever. We're not immortals, right? I am planning 5 years ahead, but I also think every single second that the next second could be my last second, right? That's how conscious I am about my life and, you know, the life on this planet. I'm very conscious about it. You know, I don't talk about religion as much. I always tell people that I'm not a practicing Muslim, but you know what? I do have faith, and my faith is strong to me, regardless what other people think about it. I do believe in it very strongly, but it's just in a complete different context to most people, and I have my reasons for that. I can easily explain that in another video. But you know, it's difficult, right? You know, because we get so overwhelmed and so overpowered with everything that's happening now. And this is kind of applies to the part about like FOMO. So you know, when you end up seeing something going up, you start taking it for granted, and your mind is you know, is wired in such a way that you're like, okay, it's only going to go up. You know, you start believing something, and it's like, well, no, guys, listen. Sometimes you just if you're going, you know, you're taking 2, 3, 4 steps forward. Sometimes it's really, really good just to take 1 or 2 steps back and say, actually, right? And just use that word and just say, actually, does this make sense? Does this look right? What if, right? And by doing that, right, you are already calculating everything that could possibly happen bad in your life, financially or anything like that. And you've already worked out the kinks, so you've already ironed it out, right? It's like, okay, if then this happens, if then that happens. I'll give you a good example. So, you know, I've talked about crypto and kind of stashing all my BTC and this and that and all, right? There's one person on this planet, and I won't mention who, that, say for example, tomorrow something happens to me and I die. That person doesn't know the keywords, the seed keys, right, to the Bitcoin wallet, but that person knows the password, right, to access the seed word. So no, I haven't just hidden it from myself and I don't have access. I don't have access, but that because I choose to. But there's a password that they can enter, and they can have full access to that seed word, all right, and know exactly where the seed words are. So I have given the access to one person, just in case. Obviously somebody I trust and somebody that's dear to me. But the point is, you know, that's the level of, you know, consciousness I've taken it to. I said, okay, anything could happen, you know. One day I could be just driving down the motorway and bloody car could smack or something. I don't know, right? You know, it's not in my hands when it's time for me to go. When it's time, right? I can't control that. Nobody can, right? When it's your time, you're going to go. And I believe that very strongly. So, you know, at the event of something happens, then the person could access that, and they have full access to all the BTC. Not only that, I've even configured it in such a way that if they don't know what to do with BTC, and that person doesn't know what to do with BTC, by the way, so they don't have any knowledge of BTC. They have invested, but very small amounts, and the particular type of a wallet I've put it in, they don't understand how to bring it in and out and this and that. I know that. So I've even made it easy in such a way that they just literally have to press one button and all the money will arrive to a bank account, right? Preferably they can configure, I mean, they can do that. They can change the bank account details at an instant. So even with the latest technology and all the modifications and all the regulations, they can still change the account and have the money come to any account. So these are the kind of steps I've taken, right? You know, forward thinking, thinking of the macro, right? And it's not always about making money macro. It's all about the worst case scenario. Sometimes you just got to look for that worst case scenario, because that one worst case scenario, you know, it could happen anytime. And if you're not prepared for it, then yeah, you could lose big. trust me, you could lose massive. So you have to understand these kind of things. Like, you know, are you prepared for that? Because if you are, then you're the winner. If you're not, then you got a problem, you know. So remember, plan to fail, because if you don't, you're planning to fail. All right, take care guys, bye.